Hey everybody, Charlie and I are two here, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. When we last left off, we were cross-examining Roly and his wife Patricia here. Try to poke some holes in their testimony so maybe we can get to the heart of what actually happened here. Let's continue on, shall we? Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. Let's press this.
Hold it!
We're going to press everything. Two silhouettes. That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. Ooh, we get a visual here. Okay. It was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby? Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. Of course. There was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street light as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please. Mr. Beat. Biete? I say Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets, I swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Roly. They're still maintaining that there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened. It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed? Oh, I'm sorry. My mouse is on the screen. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off. Let's press that. Her saying the other scattered something sounds like somebody deliberately placed items on the ground. Let's see what happened.
Hold it!
Scattered something. Yeah, you picked up on that too. What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see, old books. Yes, sir, the culprit had dropped a number of them, all around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in his photographic print. Different knife. I'm telling you, that's a different knife than the one that we have in evidence. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Hold it!
Hold it. Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Everything. Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. Okay, so they did see him throw his books and run. At least that's what she's saying. Nobody saw him shove the knife into her. Which means he probably didn't. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this is unambiguous testimony. Oh, that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Well, I mean, just being married to a policeman doesn't, by extension, make you any more trustworthy than anybody else. I can see that a policeman's word would have a little more weight, but like, why would his, just because he's married to somebody, why would the wife have more credibility? I'm not going to go down that road any further, but you get what I'm saying. Now, please, continue. Yes, sir. He just knocks right back out. We ran straight over, of course, and then we went for help at a nearby police box. Press that.
Hold it!
Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? Huh? What? Ah, yes, that's right. I asked Miss Beat to go. Why not you? I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and I asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of 2 model citizens. Oh please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we? So far, we've found no chinks in the armor, as it were. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Roly and I both saw him clear as day. What's this? But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know. Okay, she's acting a little different here. Right. The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you the fog was only light, didn't he? Yeah, and what of the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, all right. I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. I don't see the logic in that. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was the little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? Huh? What? Ah, yes. It was the accused and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable sigh. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mistress Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. I'm sure that is what they saw. He even says that he ran away. Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no. Then what do we do? If Kazuma-sama were here... What are you trying to say? I think we would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling it into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Alright, let's check out the history. Scrolling on up. It was last episode. Oh, no, we can't go back further than this. Alright, right police box. Both saw him. Light from the street lamps. Okay. Can't go back far enough. I think what we're going to find our in is her describing the direction that the two were walking versus their direction. So let's continue. Why do I always seem to be so up against it? Yeah, why can't we get an easy case? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so it seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it. You're gonna make your husband, like, punch us? What? No. Oh, no. It's really not that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything. Like, oh, she's gonna say something. Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one. I could. Every single one. She's gonna give up too much details. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is. That will do, Miss Beat. No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decided to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Roly will. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fists down. But perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Miss Beat. Here's where she's going to go put her foot in her mouth. Might that appease you? Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Clearly you haven't been coached. Wouldn't it, darling? Ellipses. I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. Could you now? Hold it! Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Roly. And what was your husband doing at the time? Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. Oh, really? He works ever so hard, you know, ever so hard. Don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Miss Beat, seeing as have you regaled the court with your tales of powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other and What's It Yearnings. Then there was A Meal for Someone. And then the last one was definitely The Thing Gummies Something. You see? Clear as mud. Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they're along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Whoa! Hold on a second. Hold on a second. This dude just pulled out a gat in the courtroom. Does everybody see this? Why is he not arrested right now? His finger is on the trigger. He's got a 38 special. At least the hammer's not back, but a 38 special, that one is probably double action. Why is your finger on the trigger and why are you so pissed? Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to. Back to sleep. Terrifying. Yeah, that is terrifying. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? Is that their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no, then what do we do? Is this the same thing? You're gonna say the exact same thing? Yep, she's saying the same stuff she said earlier. So we gotta contradict the facts. I'm not reading this because she's said all this before. Okay, before we do anything, let's look at the court record. Let's look at the book receipt. Let's examine it. The picture of Monsieur Le Col, A Meal for Gabbro, and Canterbury Yearnings. We're going to present that. This may be too obvious, but we're going to go to where she talked about the books. And then we're going to present the receipt for the books. Present.
Objection!
So, you're saying that there were 4 books. Oh, yeah. I didn't even catch that. We only had a receipt for 3. That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of monstrous somebody, what's it yearnings, a meal for someone, and then the thingamy something. I'm sorry, Miss Beat. But there's a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Oh no, what flaw? Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? This is a receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books. Your books? Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. The other thing is if they could point out where they were when they saw them approaching, then we could determine which direction he returned from. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Only 3? But no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you. 4 dirty old books. Oh, really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there are only 3 books. But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it, I saw them. No, madam. I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. Grr. So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. Oh no, Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No.
Objection!
Uh-oh. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these two witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. Ah. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Uh-oh, we're gonna have to pray, forgive the discourtesy. Would that be fair? Ugh, he sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. Oh, let me read in the right voice. I'm sorry. It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect. Oh? You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print, you mean to say? Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. I mean, why don't we have access to all the evidence at the beginning? The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride, and it's burnt. This is it. This is what we need. This is how we link... what was his name? Was it Mr. Garadeb, I think his name was? This is how we link him to this. Remember, he said that his favorite book, The Lion's Pride, was lost in that fire. Yet there it is. And it's burnt. Oh, the plot thickens. Now, how do we get there from where we're at? That's the question. I don't believe it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Defeated. Flawless victory. Order! Order! There. You see? You see? Look at that. Look, look, look. Yes. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Miss Beat, the titles once again, if you please. Oh yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. What's its yearnings? Canterbury yearnings. A meal for someone. A meal for Gabrielle. In fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Miss Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional. Did you hear that, Roly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Ms. Beat mentioned 4. Yeah, but the victim is holding that book. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. Gasp. The victim was holding her own book? What else is she going to do with her own book? I wonder, what became of that 4th book? Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. I mean, why don't we have all the books as evidence? But in the court record, you will submit that and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. Oh, you work at Chick-fil-A too? Fun fact about Charlie Nunner 2 is about 22 years ago, 21 years ago, I too worked at Chick-fil-A. Back then, we didn't say my pleasure, though. And we didn't have spicy chicken. The second crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. A second photograph of the scene taken by a policeman just after the incident. It specifically shows the victim's hand. The 4th book has been entered into the court record. A book entitled The Lion's Pride, discovered in the victim's hand at the scene. The prosecution rests. Now, before we move on, let's take a look at that court record. Swiggity, 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 swam, swoop. There we go. Let's look at this crime scene. All right, as you can see here, missing the back section, burnt. Or bitten. Looks burnt. I don't think there's anything else. I don't think there's a reason for this magnifying glass. Like, I don't see how you would see something in this that you don't already see. We haven't seen that yet. Maybe we will. All right, let's go here. 4th book. The Lion's Pride. All right, so let's look at the cover. And yes, it is burnt. Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt. You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book. Recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Well, why do you think? Who did we just talk to who admitted to having a fire burn a bookcase and damage one of their favorite books? Who, you say? It's been updated. Back covers badly burnt. All right, let's look at some more stuff. Let's look at the title. Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all. So it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. I think I have heard of a book by that name before. And very recently, too. It's a title I recognize, too, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, it's the... We know who it is. I don't know how to tell the game that we know who it is. But we know who it is. Can we open the book if we do this? Doesn't appear so, but I think we've gleaned all we can from this. All right, back once more. Prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. I mean, you just gave us 2 pieces of evidence that you were holding out on us. So, you got any more of that evidence you want to offer up before we move on? What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious, longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile. I walked right into this, didn't I? All right, we'll check this out some more next episode. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, please consider a like, a comment, and or subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.